Hey guys, it's Zero here, back with another Bleach Rebirth of Souls video. Been on vacation the last couple weeks, so just now getting back, and they've dropped new gameplay for several characters. The first fight I want to go over is Mayuri versus Szayelaporro. Wanted to talk a little bit about their kits before we started watching the actual fight. I feel like that would be a little easier than me trying to explain it as the fight's going on. So Szayelaporro, his whole game plan is around planning Rokureishi. Hopefully I'm saying that right, but pretty much there's going to be a little number above his pretty much spiritual pressure gauge and his reverse gauge, and that's going to tell you how many Rokureishi he has planted. He plants those with either his normal attack strings, and he also has a counter spiritual pressure move that can also plant them. His signature move allows him to collect the ones that he has planted, and that helps him build his spiritual analysis gauge. Now, what the spiritual analysis gauge does, there are 3 stages to it. They can be damage reduction. It can revive him up to 2 times with 3 Konpaku. And the last one, I believe, the last one, he can do more damage to Konpaku. For the revive and the more damage to the Konpaku, he needs to be in his awakened state. But the gameplay for him is pretty interesting. Mayuri, on the other hand, he has a poison gauge, right? So when they first announced that, I was thinking more of a damage over time type character. That ends up not being the case. So pretty much certain moves builds Mayuri's poison gauge, and when he attacks with his regular strings, he gets higher bursts of damage. So you'll see that as well. And there are also a couple moves that they did not cover, like Mayuri's extended arm. They didn't cover that all in the character trailer, and he does have that in this fight. So let's get it started. Yeah, I think a lot of these fights are pretty interesting, just showing how the game will play, just because they showed so many characters with gauges. Szayelaporro is also unique in that he starts with the least Konpaku out of all the characters. He starts out with 5 instead of the normal 9. Alright, now I'm just going to stop the... No, I'm not. I'm going to pretty much just show you guys beforehand. So, Mayuri goes into his yellow reverse. Okay. So you can see the number at the bottom left increasing as he goes through his normal strings. Now, the further a fight goes on, the easier it is to plant those, as that number goes up a lot faster. So he's already at 14. And that's his counter there. That plants more. I think that's the spiritual pressure move 1. And that's the counter again. So I believe that plants 5. So pretty much with Szayelaporro, you're gonna wanna stretch the game as long as possible, so you can fill that spiritual analysis gauge. Like, his whole kit's kind of revolved around it, with the damage reduction as well as 2 revives. Alright, and that's his signature move. So you see he just grabbed as an unblockable, and it decreases the number planted, but it increases his spiritual analysis gauge. Alright, and we got Mayuri going into the Bankai. Now this is going to just gradually increase the poison gauge in the bottom right above Mayuri's gauges, as you can see. And alright, Szayelaporro's going into his awakening. And you'll see as Mayuri attacks, the poison gauge depletes, and the damage he does is actually increased from those normal attacks. Okay, now I do want to pause that right there. So you can see here that Szayelaporro is basically in the middle of the attack, and this is pretty cool. Szayelaporro actually has a gap in his attack, and it allows Mayuri to pretty much do a spiritual pressure move too, which is Nemu coming and grabbing Szayelaporro and pretty much putting him in a pretty bad situation where he either has to block and take high guard damage, or he just eats the combo, which is what he does here. So watch closely. I'm gonna play this at about 3/4 speed. Let's see. Okay, so right here, there's a gap in that move. Right, so there's a gap there that allows Mayuri to perform a spiritual pressure move too, and it does a shit ton of damage. And pretty much allows him to take Ikkaku off of him. So that's going to be like a knowledge check, right? Just knowing that Szayelaporro has a gap right there, and you can likely get a spiritual pressure move off if you time it correctly. And I'm sure there are plenty of other characters that have similar gaps like that. So yeah, you can see Mayuri's poison gauge is going up regardless of attacks hit or not. Alright, so Szayelaporro has now reached the first, and sorry for keeping pausing this, but you can see down here Szayelaporro has now reached the first stage of spiritual analysis. So pretty much this number here and the gauge are tied to each other. Once you get to a third, the number will go to 1, 2/3 it'll go to 2, and once it's maxed out it'll go to 3, and he'll have all 3 of the benefits from the gauge. Yeah, let's keep it going. So you see that attack there did a shit ton of damage, and Mayuri does have the hand grab there, and he's gonna loop it a couple times. She flash stepped it that time. Alright, extended the combo. And this whole time Szayelaporro is just planting Roku Reishi this entire time. Like he's back up to 23 already. Alright, now that was Szayelaporro's spiritual pressure move too, which just instantly gives him more gauge for a spiritual analysis. Alright, so now we're going to see Szayelaporro's pretty much first revive. It's going to bring him back at 3 Ikkaku, and his reverse gauge is feeling super fast. I just noticed that. I feel like Szayelaporro can kind of be a double-edged sword, where if you have a character that can end the game fast before he can get to a point where he can rest. Oh my gosh. So he extends the combo with the yellow flash there. Extends it again with a flash step. So he doesn't end it there because he's trying to plant the Roku Reishi, right? And he gets it up to, he gets the spiritual analysis gauge up to 2 now. So it's almost maxed out. And now he's going to go ahead and go for the key cone move. But yeah, the whole point of Szayelaporro, you're trying to get that gauge maxed out as soon as possible so you can get all of the buffs that come with it, right? Once you get it maxed out, you'll have all 3 of the buffs, is what it appears to be. Yeah, I mean, if I'm wrong, you guys let me know. And it's like once he gets an awakening, he builds it so much faster, right? Now he tried to go for the counter there, and Mayuri punished it. He almost has the spiritual analysis gauge maxed out, and now he does. Right, so him retrieving that is actually unblockable, which is pretty neat. And he extends the combo with yellow reverse again. Mayuri breaks with the blue reverse. So all of this is doing extra damage, and that's the counter there. So once it's full, there's not much reason to build it anymore, which is why he just went ahead and did the key call move there. There's no reason to keep extending the combo at that point, where it's like, all right, the bar's already full. There's no reason to really plant any more Roku Reishu. You're pretty much maxed out, and you have all the buffs at that point, right? And he counters the grab again. I think Szayelaporro's counter is actually really good. And at this point, you see he's pretty much spamming the red attack there, because at this point you can just end it. And it's not as close as you guys think, because if Szayelaporro, even if Mayuri finishes it, he's gonna revive again, right? So I feel like the longer you play against the Szayelaporro, the worse off you're gonna be. You want to finish it as fast as possible, which they balanced it pretty decently, where he starts with the least amount in the game, but if you let him live long enough, he can basically have up to 11 Kompaku, right? Mayuri, on the other hand, I feel like there's a lot that they didn't show. Like, just that grab can allow you to loop a lot of things, which it isn't guaranteed. You can block it, you can flash step it, so it isn't something that you can really spam. But if you catch somebody unsuspecting of it, you can definitely loop a couple of times with that. I just feel this fight showed us a lot. It showed us like gaps and strings, which we didn't really see before from any of the other fights, and I'm sure other characters have them. I know they mentioned it in Kisuke's trailer. Basically seeing how Szayelaporro plays, which is pretty much him trying to build. At the end of the day, you're just trying to build the spiritual analysis gauge, right? So you can get all 3 of the buffs and guarantee your second revive. Also got to see how Mayuri's bar works pretty much. So you have certain moves with Mayuri that build his poison gauge, and then that allows just your normal strings to do more bursted damage, more or less. I feel like they both can be pretty strong characters, where Szayelaporro, like, that was more so a Szayelaporro showcase. I feel like he pretty much outclassed Mayuri that fight. But it can be like a double-edged sword, right? You run into someone like Ichigo, who he can go into his white reverse, and he can damn near instantly take all 5 Kompaku and probably end the game pretty quick. I feel like he may have some counter picks, but we'll see when the game comes out. I feel like that was a pretty interesting fight. Alright guys, so the next video we're going to be covering is Ikkaku versus Ichigo. We've seen a bunch of Ichigo already, but this is our first look at Ikkaku. If you guys don't know, he is a stance character, so pretty much his signature move is a stance that lets you do pretty much 3 follow-up attacks. He has a counter attack, which if you hit him while he's in that stance, he pretty much counters. He has like a rush forward, and he also has like a sweeping attack. His spiritual pressure move 1 is pretty much the same stance, but just boosted, so he does more damage out of it. And his spiritual pressure move 2 is just a general buff to that stance. So the spiritual pressure move 1 becomes stronger, and the signature move becomes stronger. And we'll see that actually in action here. But we'll go ahead and start the fight. This fight also shows us that there are stage transitions in this game, which we previously did not know of. So let's see. I think Ikkaku is pretty damn cool as well. This playstyle is really unique. I mean, all the characters in the game's playstyle is pretty unique at this point. Alright, so that's the stance into the counter. So that's the counter there. Alright, got a white reverse from Ichigo into a flash step. Alright, flash step to continue the combo. Alright, that's the sweep attack out of the stance there. And that didn't combo, so there's a gap there, it looks like. Okay. Alright, and then Ichigo's going to take 2 Kampaku here. Ikkaku's going to go in with a full reverse gauge for the next fight. And this confirms stage transitions, right? Alright, so it looked like he teched a throw there. And that was the dash forward out of the signature move. So he's going to be interesting because like once he goes into the stance, if you get really good with it, you can kind of cover all your bases, right? I wonder how like punishable they are, like out of the stance. And so there's the counter again. So if you can predict like when someone's gonna attack, I feel like Ikkaku's gonna be really good because he has a counter for free because it's a signature move, so it takes no resources. Feels like it could be pretty aggravating to play against. Okay. Alright, and it's probably going to be the only time I pause here. So we're going to go back and pretty much watch that again. So what happened was, I'm playing at 3/4 speed. What happened was Ichigo was late on his flash step, so it didn't combo and left a gap, and it left enough of an opening for Ikkaku to basically do a frame perfect flash step, which allows him to counter. So pretty much right here, you see the counter goes away, and Ikkaku is able to pretty much follow that up with another flash attack. I mean, another, what do you call it? Flash step, right? So timing's definitely going to be important. I don't think it's going to be super difficult at all, but if you miss your timing, you will leave openings for people to counter it, right? Which is pretty cool. Alright, he continues the combo. Okay, and right there he uses spiritual pressure move 2, which boosts his stance, and then he goes into Bankai. So he has his Bankai and he just boosts it with spiritual pressure move 2, which stays. Alright, flash step, follow up. Into spiritual pressure move 1, which is the stance, and then he did the dash forward. But Ikkaku is pretty cool because basically once he's in his Bankai, is similar to the anime, where as the red bar in the bottom left builds up, he does more damage, and then you can stack that with his spiritual pressure move 2. Alright. That was just spiritual pressure move 1, combo finisher. And he builds up that bar pretty fast because it's almost full already. Flash steps are going to be really good in this game, I feel like. Okay, so he missed his counter. I'm sure that has to be punishable. Like, there has to be an opening at the end of that. So he goes for the grab there. Okay, so you'll see here, Ichigo went into white reverse, and now he's spamming Getsuga Tenshos because he's going to get the spiritual pressure gauge back either way, and he was already at 150. And being that he did the Kiko move while he was in white reverse, he actually does an extra Konpaku, so he takes 4, which is pretty cool. Alright, blue reverse, which breaks the combo there. Alright, spiritual pressure move 1, stance into rush attack. Yeah, grab there. I think it's really cool that you can follow up off the grabs, and that pretty much ends the game there. I think Ikkaku's going to be pretty good. I think he's going to be a fun character to play with for sure. Definitely if you can read opponents and get his counters off, because like I said, most of them are free. There is a risk if you do the spiritual pressure move 1 in counter, because then you can end up just wasting spiritual pressure gauge. I think it's going to be pretty good. Alright, and that's going to be pretty much it for this video. I feel like we're going a little long. I'll cover the other 2 fights because we get to see the other 2. We get to see Grimmjow, which we haven't seen yet. We also get to see Kenpachi and Tozen, which we haven't seen yet. The other one's Ichigo, but we've seen Ichigo 1,000 times. I believe we get to see him go into Vasto Lorde though, so that should be interesting. But as always, guys, thanks for watching this far. Drop a like, comment below anything I may not have noticed, and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.